Hello and welcome to Mimamsa Perspectives. Mimamsa Foundation for Indic Studies is a research forum where we attempt to contemplate, study, research, and analyze aspects about India in an authentic, thorough Indian way. And we do that through various means. We publish research articles, we have projects, research projects, workshops, study circles, and one of the key initiatives at MFIs is to engage with scholars and public intellectuals through our various segments. Mimamsa Perspective is a segment where we attempt to engage with individuals who take forward these Indic perspective to the larger audience. And we are delighted to have Shri Kumarji with us today. Utpal Kumarji is a senior journalist, public intellectual, and also now an author. This is his second book, if I'm right, and the
Yes.
first one was equally well received and well read. And I think this book has come in no time. Just two books have come in quite shorter time. So I'm assuming he's dedicating a lot of time in writing these days, and we are thankful for him for doing that. His new book that we will be discussing today is Eminent Distorians. Uh, Certainly, the book has generated a lot of curiosity, debate, as it should. And one of the key things that Utpalji actually attempts to do here is, from what I have understood, is to unravel some of the strategies that some of the historians have used to understand India, sometimes willfully distorting, and sometimes because of the training as they are, because of their own ideology, the training sort of leads them to a peculiar uh, understanding of India. So will be discussing this book mostly and the implication of studying Indian history through such lens. Is it just an innocent mistake, or is there something much more consequential for India in this? So first of all, thank you, Utpalji, for joining us and taking out time.
Thank you so much, and it's a privilege and for me to be here. So really look forward to talking to you.
Thank you. So I want to sort of begin with something that you mentioned in your epilogue, and I thought it was a very telling remark. I just want to quote you here. You actually quote Milan Kundera's
And,
couplet there, and of course, Kundera had suffered communist persecution, and I've seen that. But you quote here that post independence, Bharat too has been seeing a similar endeavor of enforced liquidation of nation's memory by distorting its history and denigrating its culture. It began with hijacking of history in the name of writing it from the people's perspective. One sort of sense that a reader gets is that there is some design behind doing certain things, and there is a pattern that follows. So India is not just a case in isolation, it's a pattern, and that pattern is visible everywhere. Here obviously this pertains to Eastern Europe, but generally, do you think this is a kind of a willful way to replicate certain patterns across different societies?
yes, absolutely. In fact, this has been the case across globe, and India is also kind of a victim. But in our case, I think it has gone, I think, 10 steps ahead.
Okay.
And there have been no serious attempt to correct that willful distortion of Bharat's history. It was allowed to let go because some people thought that it might offend a few people. It also worked in the ideological milieu in which which was dominant in that phase. So, and also it was willfully distorted because uh, it suited the ideological agenda of the party in power. So it was combination of many factors in India, and
Okay.
and that happened. What's most unfortunate about India is that we couldn't correct the history of Bharat even after independence. See, I can understand why British did it. It started under British Raj, but
Right.
as a ruling class, if you can use that word for them, uh, they they were entitled to present a history more favorable towards them,
Right.
and otherwise, the very rationale of ruling over this subcontinent would have been very difficult.
Right.
So they came up with a history which said that that this country is poor, this has nothing of its own, it's a backwards. Uh, uh, there's nothing nothing good to expect from this. So
Mhm.
they wrote this history precisely so that they can project that they are here to civilize us. So I can understand that. That was a colonial this thing. the the tragedy about this entire saga is that after independence, the same historiography not just continued, but took a more uh, uh, disturbing turn in many ways. And unfortunately, also it became political in nature. Like today, I was talking to somebody in Tamil Nadu, person who's actively working in the Tamil Nadu, and he said this Aryan invasion story, for instance, is now so deeply ingrained in Tamil Nadu that even if you present facts and figures and say that no, this is all bumkum, they are not going to believe it,
Yeah.
because also it became a part of the political agenda. So it's more politics now. Like the moment you remove with factors here and question the Aryan invasion theory, the very existence of some of these people and some of these party will be questioned. So
Right.
north-south divide is now political. That's why we are discussing travel. Non-travel is also extension of the same theory, and it continues precisely for that reason. So I think that was in India's case it became more complicated and difficult precisely for that reason.
So here is interesting. They were saying that there is a sort of colonial continuation by some of the historians whose ideological position should ideally be anti-colonialist. I mean, is there a contradiction here? Then?
Uh, Ideally, on paper, they are absolutely anti-colonial. They will, in fact, they chant and then invoke anti-colonialism in their writing and their discussion every now and then. But when it comes to Bharat historiography or history writing, they follow the same pattern because ultimately they suited them. And I'll explain it slightly more detail why and how.
Yeah.
See, one dominant ideology which kind of hijacked the entire historiographical project was the left wing leftist ecosystem.
Yeah.
Now, communism works a very different pattern. Communism, anybody who is a communist or Marxist, I believe, is first a Marxist or communist, and then later, whatever he works, he will come. He will be a doctor. He will be a engineer. He might be also a historian. So
Right.
when a communist historian works, he first thinks and acts like a communist and or communist activist, communist card holder, and then later he acts and does his work as a historian. And this is where the problem happens. So many times, what is happening in our case is that some of the theories which we see very prominently pushed across by leftist historians. I suspect, in fact, I believe, firmly believe that they reach the conclusion even before finding one single fact. In fact, in most of the cases, they look for the evidence just to substantiate that conclusion.
That's true. That's true. In fact, that is one thing which, as a teacher, also that we encounter. And when I was also growing up, there were certain observations which did not have enough corroborating evidence, but they just passed on as a truth because some uh, doyen of history has written it. So let's say if something Romina Thapar has written it, it will pass off as a truth.
No, not just that. I'll just give a very example. This happened as early last year when Prime Minister Narendra Modi was inaugurating Nalanda University.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
suddenly this entire discourse become very prominent across even mainstream media. We said that no, it was not Bhaktiar Khilji, but it was some Brahmins who destroyed Nalanda Mahavihar.
yeah.
Now, interestingly, if you go deeper to that, this theory was actually, put into that, given legitimacy, intellectual legitimacy by someone called, D.N. Jha, Professor
Yeah.
D.N. Jha, who happened to be my professor in Delhi University. Now, D.N. Jha, while doing this research, this writing, does a very a historical thing. I'll say a historical, very, with very responsibly, I'm using the term, because see, as a historian, for a historian, it is a job to first take the record of the contemporary sources or
Correct.
contemporary which is closest when the event happened, not 600 years or 800 years after it happened. In this case, what Professor Jha did, he ignored all the contemporary evidence which suggested that Bhaktiar Khilji's army was the one who destroyed
Right.
Nanda Mahavihar. And he quoted one incident mentioned from a dubious source in the 18th century.
Yeah, yeah. You
No,
mentioned, yeah.
no, that's very. That's not. See, I can understand if a journalist does it. He doesn't have a historical training. These people target, like whenever I write the book, and if you present my book to a historian with a
Yeah.
leftist bent of mind, he will trash it saying that, oh, but Utpal Kumar doesn't have the historical training, history training. How are you going to write it?
Yeah.
My point is, but where is the basic history process of historical writing process followed here? He
True.
he didn't take the contemporary evidence, took one solitary dubious uh, mentioned somewhere in 18th century and turn it around to make it as if that the Brahmins did it. And some of the term used were Hindu fanatics did it. Hindu fanatics is not a medieval term also. It's a very
So
modern term. So my point is such a dubious thing they use because I suspect, in fact, I believe that they always reach a conclusion first and they always look for evidences corroborating that.
that's true. In fact, you also mentioned that, and one of the things I also remember that there is a Shri Dange actually wrote a very interesting account of ancient Indian history, and he talks about that this is a Marxist interpretation of history. At least he was right in honest in actually saying
Yeah,
that. But
absolutely.
some of these works, you would not understand any ideological mechanism unless you counter it with something else. But you also make an interesting point that the charge that is being levied on people, that, for instance, you are not a trained historian, therefore it's not worthy enough. But over the years, what we have realized is that some of the very remarkable work have come from who are not trained historians, quote unquote. It's primarily because they are not trained under this way. They are able to think differently and are able to talk about it.
No, but still, I have all respect for eminent historians who genuinely have trained and learned the art of history writing.
Yeah,
But my question is very simple. Why are we forced to write history? I mean, it is their failure to write history in the right
exactly.
manner that even
Right.
people like me, person like me, is forced to write history. I wouldn't have written. I would have written something else. But
Right.
I'm forced to write that as fun, simple thing where things are as clear as a glass of water. That
Right.
they're also they try to project history and project it in a different way. And
Right.
there will be thousands of examples, uh, and the idea which I get is always to just subvert the basic fundamental notion, Sanatan notion which we have. For instance, Romina Thapar coming up with a theory in her book, a History of India in Penguin, by publisher Penguin, where she says categorically that she believes that Mahabharata happened first and Ramayana later. Now,
Yeah,
we
yeah, yeah.
yeah, my point is, this is when you go at her entire work, life work, you believe that her entire agenda is to subvert and upend the entire our thought process,
Right.
and then they just leave it there and see and enjoy the chaos created after that. My point, they know men, they know intellectual evidence, literary evidence to suggest that, but they come up with all these theories in the name of their historiography. So my point is, first they should do their job. They should actually what they are preaching others that where is the training to be a historian. My point
Right.
is they themselves have not done that, and that's why you see some of the best history writing books are today done by people like even William Dalrymple. I don't agree with him on everything, but actually at least I like his style of writing. I always say that at least his writing, history writing, is readable, and at least it gets more people to read.
Yeah.
You may differ, it's fine. He's also research. The effort he put in research is admirable. His writing style is quite good. You learn how to write, how to project data, how to tell a story. My point is, you end up gaining something out of it. When you read the typical Marxist historian, I'm
Yeah.
saying you don't even gain that. You end up being confused. You get language which makes you confused. You don't
Yeah.
know, like they use it as typical, which Arun Sorry tells in his seminal book, Eminent Historian, that they
Yeah.
will start every sentence with maybe, maybe Mahabharata happened before Ramayana, and the next line will be therefore Mahabharata happened before Ramayana. So from the journey from maybe to therefore is very seamless, as if they have seen everything through their naked eyes.
Yeah. In
So my
fact,
point is, it is their failure that people like us are writing.
yeah, in fact, even from Maharashtra, we are seeing that a lot of history writing on Maratha history has also happened from those who were not conventionally historians. Otherwise, you were parroting the same old myths about what Maratha was and what Mughals were. But when some of those non-university historians actually came in, they brought in a very fresh perspective. And why
Yeah,
should we not call them historians? They are looking at primary resources. They are looking
exactly.
at contextualization. So I think it's a
No,
failure.
No,
historian.
but the another side to this, this is very fascinating side, that these very people who today take the recourse of this argument that that most of the writers of the today's history book are not trained historians. Now, who is a trained historian? For me, my ideal historian is somebody like Jodhana Sarkar.
Right.
You read his books, he's having very immaculate about how to do research, how to write.
Yeah.
Everything is absolutely, and he can sometimes be very painful also to do that. He would be very rigorous about each of this work.
Yeah.
Like you have to learn all. If you're a medieval historian, medieval era
Yeah.
historian, you have to learn all the language. You have to be thorough with that. Now,
Yeah.
by that standard, the Romeo Thapar is also not a historian. She doesn't know Sanskrit.
Yeah.
So my point is, it's like most of these our so-called eminent historians, most of the years they had the cake and they ate it too. There was nobody to question them. They had a free run. Now, unfortunately, last 15, 20 years, they are being questioned. So now they come suddenly they have woken up to the scholarship and all the grand work they have done. Now I'll give you another example.
Sure.
It was not that when India was getting independent, there was no effort to write history of this country from the perspective of Bharat. There were efforts. R.C. Munda made an effort. Jodhana Sarkar made an effort. R.C. Munda, in fact, wrote letters to
Yeah.
education ministry of the time that that we should have a history which tells our story. Nothing happened because it all got politicized. He was made part of it, and then he was thrown out of it, and then nothing came out of it. The thing is, these very people they hijacked it from there, that time, and the example, the kind of logic they give at that time was that Romila Thapa's pet example was that history should talk about the people and not just rajas. Because
Yeah.
some of these people like the Jana Sarkar will focus more on rajas. So just to target them, they say that our history will talk about people. Now tell me, more than 60 years have passed by since that statement was made by Robila Thapar. Tell me one history which talks about common people.
Yeah.
None, zilch, zero. It was
Right.
just for the consumption, but no one questioned them. No one asked the question, yeah, where is the history? Where is the people's history? They know people's history.
Right. Yeah, and I think this whole criticism that the history writing which is coming up now has a government patronage and that they are only sort of it's an echo chamber of government. But how laughable that is, because if had it not been for government patronage in 50s and 60s, a lot of this would probably, if they were to actually stand to the scrutiny of scholarship, they would have died away. But for their government support, some of this sort of went on and on. In fact, Meenakshi Jain actually makes a very critical observations in terms of how some of their histories was falling flat when they had to sort of face the scrutiny in court, when they had to come up and stand to their arguments regarding Ram Janmabhoomi movement. And none of these eminent historians actually came in forefront and defended their position. So they were happy when they were actually talking to their own peers. But
See, what happened exactly, like Ramjan movie specific mention you made, just I'll talk about that first.
yeah,
Like in that case, for the first time, they got exposed where there's something called court was there.
yeah,
The people
exactly,
are there to also question them.
exactly,
So
yeah,
before them, they have to get away telling anything and no one got questioned. For the first time, when court asked them, okay, you're saying that okay, Ram was not born or Mandir was not here. So where is the evidence? Now they got jittery.
yeah,
Most of you read the book of Sitaram Goel's this Hindu temples, and
yes, yes, yes,
you will find that most of the people initially they made big claims and slowly it started running away. They
yeah,
stopped,
yeah.
refused attending courts because they have not this thing. They said, "Oh no, I'm not done. I need more time. I'll read." So, if I'm not read, then why
What
will
were
you
you
make
doing?
big claims? Without reading, you make such big claims. But that's what they used to do. Most of the time, they never were questioned. They had no. It was like an echo chamber. Whatever they said, they could hear, and that's it. And it was very. You sketch my back, I'll sketch your back kind of ecosystem they created. That one example, the Ramjan movie, for that they falter and it became kind of they got exposed precisely that there was a court at that time and court
Yeah,
asked them the tough questions and they had no answers and very fundamental questions. They had no answer for fundamental questions. Now, I'm someone who believes that see, uh, there will be politicization of history every time in every government. Let's be honest
right,
about it.
true,
Any person who will be in power will try to write history from his own perspective.
right,
So let's not take holier than thou that now अभी ऐसा नहीं हो रहा है या बाद में ऐसा नहीं होगा. ये
correct,
हो But there had to be certain, we have to find certain, some balance there. Some, some Lakshman Rekha has to be written that it should not go against the very grain of your civilization entity, your nationhood, your idea of nation, your idea of your civilization.
Right, right.
Problem is some of this historiography, in the name of scholarship, actually crossed that line long back, and the idea was just to distort the idea of Bharat and the idea of Sanatan Dharma.
Right.
So yeah, and you rightly said that those who are crying horse today and saying that it's politicization of history, they should look at the history of 50s. And I will share one incident. I always believe in sharing anecdotes. So there was a governor, of Sri Prakasha. He was the governor of Madras.
Mhm.
So he had written a letter to Rajendra Prasad ji and requesting me that that Jaduna Sarkar should be given Bharat Ratna.
Huh.
Now, Bharat Ratna technically cannot be recommended.
Huh.
So
Right.
then what Rajendra Prasad did at that time, he went for the second best option and he wrote a letter to Nehruji saying that, why don't we should give Jadona Sarkar ji Padma Vibhushan. Next year, a year passed by, nothing, no reply came. He didn't even bother to reply to President of India's mail, my letter. Next year, Rajendra Prasad went a step further, down further, and wrote, why don't we give him Padma Bhushan? Forget Bhushan, let's give him Padma Bhushan. No reply. In the meanwhile, even his juniors got government awards, good big awards and everything, but not Chandra Sarkar. Now, how? Even when the President of India and of the stature of Rajan Babu is openly asking and requesting, then also they didn't give it. And they were willingly giving to people who were his colleagues, our juniors. They were giving at the same time because they wanted to haunt him. They wanted to push him to the margin. They wanted to ignore him. They wanted to completely put him into kind of intellectual prison. And that's what they did. By the 70s, uh, uh, some of our genuine eminent historians, they were completely, wiped out from our intellectual consciousness. By 70, that's what happened. Overnight, Indira Gandhi, when her government was in minority, she bargained with communists for political survival. And in the process, she gave them the entire access to our academia and the cultural realm. So
Right.
our entire historical institutions, think tanks, our colleges, universities, they all were rented out to uh, communist activists, and how they were being pushed. And he wants to read the book of Raj Thapar all these years. She was a member of Indira Gandhi's kitchen cabinet, so she was someone insider.
Yeah.
He writes that there was no criteria of the appointment. The only criteria was that the person should be a communist. That's
Yeah.
it. Period. He can be an idiot of the first order, but it still didn't matter. So this is how it was.
JNU, I think it's formed during the same time, and during
Yeah.
the JNU, I think.
Yes, late 60s.
Yeah.
That's why it was formed at the same time. Why give one example how politicized things were. They are already called ICSSR,
Yeah.
Indian Council of Social Sciences Research.
Yeah.
Still, they formed the ICHR, Historical Research Body, because
Yeah.
they wanted to have a separate body where they can politicize history all the more. So
Yeah.
it was all about politics. They have no right. In fact, they have dirtied the entire intellectual milieu so much that this should be the last person to talk about politicization of history or social sciences.
Yeah. Even I think you mentioned ICHR, and I think one of the sure is one of the biggest contribution is that book in Eminent Historians, and he actually points out how ICHR was used as a milking cow. A lot of these fellowships were given, and nothing
Yeah.
actually came out of it. And this
It
is
was
how,
it was a bottomless pit where
yeah,
the money kept on being dropped and nothing would come out of it.
nothing was coming out of it.
But I'll tell you that Arun Sawhney wrote his book in I think 2002, 3 or something like that. I followed up the same story when I was in India Today group. I was in Today, and I did a story on ICHR. It was I think 2015-16. So almost like 12, 13 years later, 14 years later, and the condition remained the same. I did a story. It was a front page story in Mail Today, and I remember in one of our programs, the then HRD minister Smriti Irani came, and she informed us, she told us in our event that that she has instituted a one-man committee to look into that.
Uh-huh.
I don't know what has happened, because in our country, most of the committees reports we don't find anywhere. But
Right.
that was the case then. So my point is, this continued even after Arun's book came out, and because there was nobody to question them. So till
Basic immunity. I
yeah,
mean, the sort of. In fact, you also make an important point here that that they have used institutions and they have used governmental support. And one of the ways, what different trend that I'm looking at right now is there are two things. The first thing is, while it is alleged that this is happening under governmental patronage, but a lot of this history writing and the alternate idea is organic in its nature. I mean,
yeah,
it's not something someone is writing, and it's just that the history was so much suppressed that it is organically coming out.
it is organic.
Yeah,
It is organic. It is individual led. It's
yeah,
not even like it's not even societal level. That's where I have a problem is that that as
yeah,
a society, like-minded people like you, me, and many others should come together, do something collectively. But if I do individually in my silos, then it's
right,
not going to change much. This will be
true,
largely very limited impact it will have. So we
right,
have failed there. Forget about government. Government, I'm sorry, this is not government focus right now.
and
Those who are telling, they're
true,
telling a lie. The big lie, and they are the people who are questioning the government. They were actually the very ones who used government
yeah,
before 2014 for last 50 years, and had all the fun of their lives. So
yeah,
they are one, they don't have a right to say, and two, they are wrong. They are absolutely spreading kind of myth that
right,
government is, I'm sorry, government is not doing anything, which is unfortunate. Government should do. But
yeah,
my point is, I don't care. See, I have very slightly different opinion that I don't like government being part of any such things.
that is also true.
I believe that whenever government puts his hand in any of things like this,
Yeah,
government job is to govern. That's it.
yeah,
And
right,
not to to educate us or to write textbook for us or to appoint in our this thing. Whenever government hand will come, that institution, the place will get mediocre.
yeah,
I somehow I always believe that, and I've seen some of these institutions very closely through my father's eyes. So
mhm,
I personally believe that it's good in a long term that government doesn't. But unfortunately, it will not happen. If they don't do it, the opposition will come. They will pass that order very next day, and the entire the left wing ecosystem, which is margin today, will find a place in the great educational ecosystem, governmental ecosystem. So, but I have a problem. As a society, we are not doing much. We
mhm,
are doing in our silos individual centric, but as a society, I think we need to really wake up, collaborate with each other together, do something more on that front. Because
right,
otherwise, individually, this will take a long time. Thankfully, on a positive side, with social media around and everything, now
yeah,
things have really, fastened up quite a bit. And also now voices cannot be suppressed.
not
So
rest.
at least, yeah,
I wanted to bring to that point because the second thing that you talk about is also very important about the ecosystem. And I remember when I was also as a student in 2010 and 11, I was studying political science and economics, and I remember some of the agony which some of our teachers had was that if they wanted to write something and publish which was not conform to their ideas, they were gatekeepers who would stop it.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
now somehow that space has become democratic. I mean, okay, you may not conventionally write in EPW, or you may not write in Hindu or Indian Express, but then you have a,
Some places, yes,
yeah,
true.
and you can voice. So that democratization has led to the, so now you've been with media for a long time, you're also writing book. What is the change that have you observed in this particular segment?
No, I totally agree with you. In fact, I wrote. There were times when all the award boxy drama was happening in this country. I wrote several articles on the same line you said. I said this country had never been more freer
Yeah,
in spreading ideas, in talking, in debating, dialoguing. So this entire charge is politically motivated, or
right,
the person has not have no idea of history, how things worked in the last 70 years. So
right,
I believe that we have never been more freer.
yeah,
And I also believe, and those people who are actually making this charge, I think they're the smartest people in the world. They are still having the fun of their life. They're still not being marginalized. I still believe that one dialogue in this Kashmir file, that system of unica, establishment unica. System
right.
is still there. Government might have changed, but they still hold the important levers of governance somehow. So, like you see. even if government is running many educational institutions,
Right.
but when it comes to awarding people, na, you see the literature award going. You see who is getting the award. I'll not name those. I will like nitty picking the thing, but because they all do. You look at the publishing. Publishing still is being completely controlled by the old ecosystem. Ex-
Right.
you go to mainstream this thing publishing houses. I will not name them, but you know that there's just 4 or 5 people from the right are getting access. The rest of them will not even now they are not getting access. They will not get access.
Right.
So that's it. But good part, है कि at least that fortress of
Yeah.
monopoly has been breached
Yeah.
now, and now the hole is getting bigger. So with each passing day, their the hold over their own monopoly is getting weaker and weaker. And I think it's also because this is a battle of ideas. It will take time. This mental coloniality is a long game, no.
Yeah.
So this will take time for us to also win. But yeah, I think but we're in the right direction.
But I sort of coming back to your experience of writing this book particularly, there is in one way, this book is different from your earlier book, but in one way, this is also in continuation to the broader idea. But when you were writing this book, and one of the peculiarities and characteristic of this book is it is accessible to everyone. And some of the issues that book is talking about are much more so people can relate to some of the issues that they are happening around them.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
in one way, this book is through its whether it is Aryan invasion or whether it is Ashoka, whether it is more recent time in your last chapter you talk about Pandit Nehru and from there it moved. So I think it is much more relatable.
Relatable. Yeah.
Yeah, but yet what it attempts to do is it investigates certain questions which seems like they were there, but we were not able to view them. So, what can you help us in terms of how did you identify topics in your book, and why did you? I mean, what was the process behind writing this?
See, one problem about history books, which we have been producing over the last 50, 60 years at least, is that it has been very complicated. It has been written with I think with a definite agenda to make it look difficult, look academic, to make it look unattractive. No, that's the entire purpose is lost. History should be something which is accessible to everyone. History is
Right,
there to know, to learn, to 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 change yourself, to adapt to the challenges you might face.
right,
Our history deliberately, our historians they try to do was that to make it very difficult. They came out with theories, they put economic jargons. This become more like economics than history books. Sometimes I feel that am I reading history books or am I reading an economic book? I have no problem with facts and data, but
right.
history should be interesting. History should be uh, again. I'll give example of Dalrymple because with him I always pet. I didn't like his last book also. And where a section of right wing also went gaga about his book. I thought
Yeah,
that was a very half-hearted and half-sided view of the Bharat's achievements. But at least to his credit, he's writing history which is interesting. He's making history uh, talk to you.
right.
And it's not like that I have to make an effort to read this. It comes like like a historian telling the story like a novelist. So that's fun. History should be like. So one idea while I was writing that I will not write history like that. At least I have a clear vision about that. The kind of history I was forced to read. I won't write. I let history the way a person reads a novel, for instance. एक
Right.
कहानी कैसे आप पढ़ते हैं? It's more like a story reading. And so that was deliberate on my part. Also because since I have been reading history for last 3 decades, and I've been like I love reading different aspects of history. My writing also you see even like I'm writing something on politics and geostrategy, but history will have some bearing there or some notes of from history coming there. So history was always with me for last 3 decades. So there, it helped me understand that what are the major events in history which is important for us, or where we faltered maybe, or where we need to emphasize. So that's why when I started thinking about history, initially I thought should I make it the 2 part or 3 part book. With my
Ah,
publisher, I was discussing about that,
yeah.
but then I thought then that would be like the very idea of writing this book might get killed.
Okay.
Let the history will be there, which is let this be the primer of history, where I give him everything information, and
Okay.
then if the person finds it interesting, he will go and explore further. So this will
Right.
be like the initial peak into the Bharat's civilizational journey from
Right.
antiquity till independence. So that's how I took this journey.
Also, one of the things that comes across, though it was not, I mean, it's not explicit, but one of the things that comes across is uh, one of the strategies used by some of the historians, which you have critiqued in your book, is to downplay certain elements of our history. Now, by saying that it's a political idea or it's an economic idea or something, just not mentioning it as a carefully designed strategy. Come across as it's a strategy to downplay, let's say, the invasions, the troubled history of that. Firstly, as a someone who's followed, read, and now written about history, how do you think that strategy has worked to not explain something to our own people? And second, what are the implications of this coming out now, when this could be seen as a betrayal of historians towards their own society?
See what happens. It's a very good question. In fact, see, I'll go to the crux of the entire issue. They they believed through the Nehruvian lens that that this country has to be united, where so we should not have we should highlight the disturbing part, that
Ah,
one section of one community did something wrong to the other. Unfortunately, this was one way passes. When
right.
they were happily quoting the other side when the other side did something wrong, like when a Hindu killed Mahatma Gandhi in
Yeah.
1948. The very first line was told on the all in radio was that a Hindu has killed Mahatma Gandhi, so that the message gets clear that that Hindu had done it, no others have done it. So please. But then when other violence happen, then you always read in the newspaper that a section of community person from a particular community came and killed. So this is narrative we have been born and we have been following for a long time. Now,
Right.
problem with this very noble idea is that this doesn't work in real life.
Right.
See, first of all, you need to know that you're talking about reconciliation here. That two communities should reconcile. The basis for that should be truth. Without truth, there can't be reconciliation. And first, truth should come. First, you talk. पहले आप सच्चाई बात करें. बताएं क्या आपके साथ हुआ था. You tell your heart out. That's how it happens. Psychologists also. You have some problem. They will encourage you to tell everything. You cry there. You howl there. Yeah, oh, I did this. They don't tell you to suppress it inside your heart. So first, you go and open out. Say what is your problem, and then discuss it out, and then the reconciliation process, healing process will start after that. Now the problem with us the Nehruvian historiography and our Distorian historiography was that they appended this story. They said no, let truth can be compromised, or truth can be invented to create the reconciliation thing. Now, problem is, because that what happens that in 50s you can get a film like Mughal Azam, but in 2025 you get a film called Chhawa, because suppressed your identity, suppressed feelings
Yeah.
are there.
Right.
You might tell a Bihari that no, nothing happened with Shivaji's son, but today's people who live in Maharashtra, they
Yeah.
still carry that anger, that angst, that feeling of suppression. So
Right.
this will come out sometime, and when it comes out in a very violent way.
Right.
So see, this was not an ideal way to do it. I just give an example. Chhawa is very popular right now, and
Right.
this
Right.
says you can't suppress histories. History will come out in one way, and sometimes very unpredictable way. But then
Right.
these people try to do that. They try to artificially create a construct where they say, "Oh no, all was well." All was not well. And also, I have problem with this theory that why are you judging today's Muslims with
Of course.
all with the crimes committed by people like Aurangzeb?
Right.
What Aurangzeb did. Let's not judge today's Muslim for that. And I'm sure that most Hindus
Yeah.
are intelligent, smart enough, human enough to make these differences. I
Right.
mean,
Right.
whatever Aurangzeb did, he did. Today's Muslim had nothing to do with that.
Right.
So my point is, these people are also judging today's Muslims. by equating him with the crimes of Aurangzeb.
Yeah, and I think, and it doesn't work. For instance, it's okay to, let's say, talk about caste atrocities. I mean, if that logic should also be applicable everywhere. If I mean, but it's okay to talk about certain historical wrongs, but only sort of censure certain others, which also reflects
Yeah,
some sort of an inherent bias uh, uh,
exactly.
at approaching. I mean,
No,
that is not a common standard everywhere.
मैं वही बोल रहा हूँ. See, if you really wanted to pursue this line that that every we'll just talk about harmonious thing and no conflict, then why are you in your history book talking about very subtly and very prominently also that
Yeah,
but when Maurya has declined, then Pushyamitra Sung came and he destroyed so many Buddhist viharas.
yeah, yeah,
There you don't feel like the Buddhists might feel angry about what happened to them in this
yeah.
country. So
True.
there, so your entire sense of the empathy is just for one particular community. That's it, and other community you don't care about it. In temple destruction also and violence.
Yeah.
Look, these very people who try to hide the atrocities committed by Muslim invaders,
Uh,
where they destroyed temples, killed many, and did what not. And these very people will say, no, no, nothing happened. I think we are overjudging this. Some will say, oh, but theek hai. But Mahmud Ghazni did precisely because he was looking for wealth.
yeah.
It was not religious. It was monetary. All these, all they invented. Doesn't the contemporary sources say that all these are foiled? He was driven by religion. His
Right.
entire thing was driven by religion. Of course,
Right.
money might be there, but his main focus was religion. And he say, it says
Himself says that. Yeah.
yeah, उसने बोला भी for me, I want to be Booth Sikan and not Booth Parast. That was the
Yeah.
term he used when he was offered money. So, but then this and the same historians, when it comes to Hindu community, for instance, then they'll say, oh, but there were Hindu Rajas who also destroyed temples.
Yeah.
And not just temples or viharas. Then what are
Yeah.
you creating? Why are you creating two
Yeah.
different binaries for different communities? Have you come and say that all were so good, nothing wrong was there. India,
Right.
where there was no one killed anybody. They all were happy. Let's create that La La Land for ourselves.
Yeah. And in fact, there is this false equivalence. I think one of the reasons why this whole Buddhist and all this is spoken about is to create that false religiously inspired Raja does that. So to deliberately bring about that false equivalence, you create Hindu kings destroying Buddha vihars also, while the
Yes,
same,
yes,
uh,
yes.
yeah. And
And
also
based on
no
almost
contemporary.
zero evidence and dubious evidences.
Yeah, yeah. Also, the other thing that I found in your that comes across in your book is that well, that entire left ecosystem of historians, there are partly who are like committed Marxist historians, but with over a period of time, what we see is that this labels about which left historians created, let's say about Jadunath Sarkar or R.C. Muzumdar, that these are nationalist historians, almost using that term pejoratively, that somehow continued with the left historians to delegitimize anyone else. So they've used these all constructs to delegitimize any other source.
Yeah.
So, how does one reclaim that? If one wants to sort of move beyond these labels, how does one reclaim that?
One. I think that this will take time, but one needs to first, I think, decolonize oneself also. See, most of us take these words at face value. Nationalism,
Right,
nationalism might be a bad word in West, but you see, from our perspective in India's dharmic perspective, nationalism is not a negative term. It's not
right,
used to disenfranchise anybody, to get killed anybody else, or to
right,
to throw somebody out of countries. This thing. So in Bharat's context, this nationalism is not a negative term. It's a very positive term. It's a term which inspired the nation to come
right,
together. It's a more unifying force rather than somebody who divided. What happened in Europe, for instance. So our experiences are different from the West. Similarly, religion.
right.
Uh, Religion in Bharat's perspective is again a very unifying force. It's not
Yes,
it doesn't divide people to people. It actually unifies.
right,
But then again, since we always use from the Western parameters of framework, so we use this term very loosely to say, and that's why religion is not our term. Dharma is our term. Dharma we say, and dharma is not religion. Dharma
Right.
means righteousness. So
Right.
my point is that we first need to understand that what is all these terms, how we are using it labelly. And that's why they use all these terms to first confuse us and to villainize the people they want to villainize. I'll just give one example, for instance.
Sure.
Like I use term right wing just because, because that's easy way to explain it.
Communicate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
look, otherwise there's nothing called right, frankly speaking.
True.
It belongs to, in that right wing, so many people belong with so many different this thing. But one term used for people like us is we are conservatives. Now,
Yeah.
I believe that we are the most liberal people on the earth.
Yeah.
And conservative, see, but again, we're using from the leftist point of view, from Western point of view. Western concept को हम यहाँ ला रहे हैं, and इसीलिए entire confusion gets started. I think
Yeah.
we need to selectively, root out all these Western constructs, including secularism. Secularism is also absolutely Western Christian
Yeah.
concept.
Right. Right.
There is also a Christian concept there.
Right.
That's why you see in the name of secularism, so much of politics is happening and so much of dirty politics is happening. And
Right.
also for that same reason, I mean, our very sage and very smart forefathers
Hmm.
refused to give it a place in our constitution. There were
Yeah.
reasons for that. They were
Right.
debated. Not that they were idiots, they didn't debate or they didn't know what secularism is all about. They
Right.
debated that and left it out of the context. And look how it came inside secularism when there was emergency, when constitution itself was in abeyance, it was put. And today, all parties, including BJP, swears by secularism.
Yeah.
So I think we need to come out of that Western binary, Western construct, Western thought process, and that will happen when our colonial hangover is slackens much more than it has happened today.
Right. Yes. Also, I mean, one of the ways is like you also, which a sense that one gets is that there needs a corrective discourse also. I mean, one way is that you need to challenge the discourse. That is one element of it, and another element is to provide equally. Because one thing, all said and done, that they provided it, all this left ecosystem wrote with a veneer of intellectualness. That their work is it's peer reviewed and all this big Oxford University Press and all that. There was a veneer of intellectualness there. So the second term is that we need a strong ecosystem of the
Yeah,
similar
yeah,
kind.
yeah.
That when we are able to write, we are able to publish it in the standards that is important, and then also have a academic and popular discourse side by side. And
Yes,
one of the successes of your book is it sort of blends both. That there is an academic angle to it, but it is for the popular mass consumption. Doesn't retain. So, firstly, really very. That's why it actually touches some of the really nice chords. But sort of thinking more futuristically, I mean, how does one actually gets into the scholarship of it? Now, a lot of this is writing is coming from like we are writing it for mass consumption. But when I'm as a student, when I'm let's say prescribing certain things, there is something that the ecosystem lacks right now. So how do you think we go ahead? I think there is some governmental effort about NEP and stuff like that, but it is so nebulous right now that we cannot
yeah.
identify.
This is a very long termist this
Yeah,
thing issue we are talking about. Well, this will take time.
yeah,
See, at a popular level, you can do it, but again, like that's why I say the institution will have to come together. What I was talking a while back, that
yeah.
that at our academic institutions, this
Hmm.
is real battle is there. When their legitimacy get legitimate, there is difficulty. And I'll give example. What happened this I think last month. One video went viral where one girl teacher
Hmm.
teacher was teaching some ICE aspirants
Hmm.
about history, and where she said that how Islam was egalitarian and
Yeah, yeah,
Hinduism about all caste system, and a lot of people went uh, crazy about that. Some question her, "Acha, come debate with me. If you win, I'll give you 1 crore rupees." Some very this thing. They all were right, and that girl was wrong.
yeah.
But
Hmm.
but in that entire brouhaha, what we missed was that that girl was doing what she was
Taught.
told to do.
Right.
She is teaching person for the IS examination, and
Yeah.
those kids write what I wrote in my book, if they write this, they all will fail. They'll get zero under. That's
Right.
because institutionally we have not changed.
Right.
Like, still they're being taught the same old thing. They're taught Aryan invasion. They're telling about how that this country is of losers and we just have 3 battles and we all lost all the battles,
Right.
and that we got Azadi through Gandhi's Santi and Ahimsa. So you have they have to pass the exam, and that poor girl had the duty to just to take them to the right path. Thus you are teaching everything was absolutely foolish, stupid. But
Yeah.
but that's what I'm saying. Institutional level is a different ball game. See,
Yeah.
you can do whatever you want to do it here. But again, if tomorrow,
Battlefield is
if
there.
my son has to go and appear for IS exam, he'll have to read the same Romila Thapar and R.S. Sharma because we have
Right.
not done anything there. So, but then that's a longer, that's a longer this thing for. But I agree on one point what you said that we also it's not just about finding fault with them.
Right.
We can't be just negatively targeting and fighting them. We should also come out and expose them through positive these things. For instance, they always take this holier than thou attitude that that they want to preserve this communal harmony through their history book. That's why they don't talk about temple destruction and everything. Now, my point is, what kind of historiography is that just focuses on Delhi?
Exactly. Yeah.
And doesn't talk about the great excellence of South India, Northeast India, Kashmir, and all these places. Cholas for me, and I've written my book category. Cholas is as central, as mainstream as Mughals were there or Mauryas were there. We need to take that point and reach out to see. If you don't do that, we are falling to their trade. So they will always say, "Oh, but these people are Hindutvawadis." We are not. We
Right.
want to bring Cholas in the centers. Pallavas should be Pallavas are our mainstream. They are not regional power. They are mainstream. Homes are our mainstream empire.
Powers.
Karkotas are our mainstream empires. We need to hijack their this moral high ground which they created through their the government support and through the ecosystem. I think we need to expose them there, and also we
Right.
need to slowly, but we have to keep on telling the right thing. We need to keep questioning, and we have to keep questioning the like for instance we need to always remind that okay, ठीक है, Bakhtiar Khilji destroyed everything. We are often told that with 18 soldiers, he actually won the Bengal. Just 18 soldiers. This is a fact. I'm not
Yeah.
denying.
Yeah.
Because the Sena, the dynasty was Sena dynasty. They were completely sleeping. I don't know what they were doing. So with 18 soldiers, he went and captured the entire Bengal territory. But why aren't we told that how did Bakhtiar Khilji die? Bakhtiar Khilji dies when he attacks the Assamese king called King Prithu.
Yeah.
Now, King Prithu defeated him so comprehensively that Bakhtiar Khilji's own soldiers killed him.
Right.
Now, my point is that we need to create these positive stories. You are telling the half truth. We need to tell the story of okay. We are telling about the history of Muhammad Ghori defeating our Prithviraj Chauhan.
Yeah.
But we should also tell the story how there is a lady in Gujarat called Naiki Devi.
Yeah.
Her husband had died and her child was very young at that time. She fights Muhammad Ghori and defeats him so comprehensively and so thoroughly that he didn't dare to look at India for almost a decade or more than a decade.
Right.
These are our icons. We need to project it and
Right.
and basically to expose our historians and take away their holier than thou, this attitude that they're doing for the country and they're doing for the communal harmony.
Social
No,
harmony.
you are doing for your communist agenda. You are working like an activist and not a historian. I think that's what needs to be exposed.
In fact, when you're saying this recent, this is going rounds. Ramchandra Guha's quote about why there should not be a Shivaji's name in New Delhi is going round across the Twitter, and somehow that's an old thing that has come up, but that's a good thing that we get to know what these people have written for a long time.
Yeah, yeah.
And once when if someone looks at that logic, it is such a stupid logic, but
Yeah.
it somehow is sort of carried forward like a gospel truth of sorts.
But sometimes it also it's good that they raise up such issues because then
Yeah.
they debate and with social media there these people get really exposed right, left, and center. So it's in a way it's good. In a way our debate gets centered on the civilizational issues, our civilizational heroes.
Right.
In that way, it also works in I think it's not too bad also. I think.
In fact, that's a very good thing. In fact, this is something is happening quite often now, that
Yeah.
someone would have written something in 2010, but right now the memories, you can trace something out and you
Yeah.
can understand. Ramchandra Gu has been passing off as an historian for a long time,
Yeah. Exactly.
for
Exactly.
no reason. In fact, only his credit is, of course, he wrote that on Gandhi, and
Gandhi.
yeah.
Exactly.
But apart from that, but he's accepted as an authority across all issues on
No,
history.
he can today pass judgment on anything and everything, including environment. Well,
Yeah, that's where he began,
so from
apparently.
environment to Gandhi to entire Indian history to and, our political culture, because he's also close to an Indian ecosystem, so he can talk on everything and anything, and
Right.
he can't be questioned. He's like, okay.
So, in your book, so now it's been quite a while that book is out. Is there any peculiar comment or peculiar observation about the book that has stayed with you? Maybe a critique or something that you have found out, some observation or review that has stayed with you for a while
Um,
about the book.
what they do, it's a very typical leftist attitude. They did not this time, and it's not new. They have done in the past also. They will avoid you if you're good, and if they can avoid you, because what happens that they know that if they start a debate, like I said, sometimes debate is good. If they start a debate, they will get exposed, or maybe things will start tumbling out. So they don't, ideally they don't talk, and it's not a new phenomenon. Even in the 80s and 90s, when someone like Sitaram Goyal and others would challenge them to come, let's have debate, they will never come on to debate. They'll just say, who are you? We're not a historian, we'll not talk to you. Hurry, come, go debate now.
Yeah.
But they will not debate. So ideally they keep quiet.
This finding truth and
And
fact is only historians.
yeah, that's the reason why I made an effort to give almost 50 page this reference notes there.
Yeah, yeah,
Because I know that that's the first thing they will say. They would have said, "Yo, but this is all bum come WhatsApp University guy. What have you done? Nothing." So at least I have shown you I have read these books, and most of them I'm quoting the leftists all in there. So that's why mostly they'll keep quiet, and it's a case like somebody reached out to one of the very prominent this thing portal for a
yeah.
review. So I think the books editor there asked for the PDF. So PDF was given. Then she said, "No, we can't do that." So, but I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
Had it been trash, see what they do. They look for very typical cases, and they will put everything dark. They will look for someone says, "Oh, but we had a surgery where Ganesha's head was transferred." They will pick that up and say, "Oh, look, this is the right wing intellectual." So
Yeah.
they want that kind of literature so that they get paid. When you're making a solid argumentative case, they will not even talk about it. So
Yeah.
this is just one example. There are many happen with me.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's why I was very clear saying that that they still control the levers of ecosystem.
Yes.
It's not that they're out of it; they are very much there. It's just that they are now silent.
Yeah.
They're just maybe biding their time,
Right.
hoping that things might turn, but they're still there.
Yeah, and I think one of the successes of the alternatives to this has been that they've been using new avenues to their benefit, whether it
Yes,
is social media, whether it is new publication houses which are coming out, which are more than willing to engage with these ideas. These
yeah,
have been used for because all said and done, with social media has shown that this alternative voice has a strong market today, and therefore people will come and sort of give you that support. So I think in identifying and tapping that, this has been substantial. But like you said, that the institutional change obviously will take time. It's
it
a
will time.
it's a longer battle.
Yeah.
But any word of advice to some of the new budding writers who would be reading you and listening to you? What are the things that you would advise them to?
I think read more, and I think we have a tendency. That's why I'm not very active on social media, though I'm a huge supporter of it. A
Yeah,
huge supporter of it. I'm not supporter because there most people go to give gyan. No, when you go there to listen. So they all come with full knowledge. I think I always believe that that glass. So one should empty the glass a bit so that
uh,
some water can be flown in there.
yeah,
So I'll for young especially I say that just read more and then make your own value judgment. Don't say that what I'm saying is gospel. No, please. आप पढ़ो उसको and then you decide for yourself. This is land of seekers. This is
right,
not land of commandment. So this is land of seekers where you have to seek your truth. So
right.
seek your but then seek your truth. Don't make any guru and take the commandment from there. So this is what I'll say.
Yeah, in fact, and that's very rightly put, because all everyone has tried to do in our philosophical journey is to provide their own way, and then it's free up to people to whether to take it or not. But that fundamental premise that it is actually seeking and not conforming. What is
Exactly.
happening with the left is they are trying to conform to their premise and not necessarily seek. So non-conformity and seeking, I think it's two buzzwords that we can take on. But thank you, Utpalji, very strongly for taking out time. It was a very free-flowing one. I hope you enjoyed it as well. And
Absolutely. I loved it, and this was like I'm doing quite a few podcasts.
yeah,
This is the most different one, so I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it for the length and breadth it went, and it went beyond the book, and also book was part of it. So I think it was beautiful. Thank you. I loved it.
yes, and I think what the reason why I would urge all of you to read this book is the way it takes on, say, it doesn't claim to have all answers, but it at least challenges some of the answers which are given to us, and then question that if that answer is right and what could be an alternative as well. So one of the ways that it creates some sense of inquisitiveness, and it will raise more questions than if you're looking all the answers. Probably you will not get those, but you will get right questions to ask, and I think that's also the end of it's a very, which is why it's a very successful attempt. Congratulations, Upalji, for a very successful book, and I hope you keep writing for all of us. It's a journey, like you said, it's a long drawn journey, but this is a important milestone in that, and I'm sure it's going to go a long way for everyone who are trying to find good answers and
Uh,
questions as well.
Thank you so much, Ali, for being kind and giving this platform. I loved it. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you all of you for joining as well. The link of the book will be there in the description. Please read it. Do let us know what you felt about the book. If you feel to write about it, please share with us. We'll be happy, more than happy to convey it to Balji, and I'm sure he's very accessible and will be more than happy to respond to some of those as well. If you please visit our website www.mfisonline.org, keep track of all the work that we are doing. Follow our Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter pages where we keep on updating all about our activities. But that's it from our end. Thank you once again, and see you very soon.